So you guys know that the idea that the United States was an isolationist country between World War I and World War II is a complete myth, right? There were isolationist aspects to some parts of US politics during that period in time. The Republican presidents of the 1920s didn't like to do much of anything, domestically or internationally. That doesn't mean that the United States didn't completely run the table internationally during that period. In the late 1930s, as the US public got angry at the Depression and their sense of how World War One had gone, there was actually some isolationist legislation that was passed in like 1935 and thereon. Amusingly, at exactly the point when the Democratic president FDR had started arming up the country and was beginning to be much more assertive in foreign policy. This myth is meant to cover up something really basic. After World War One, it's commonly acknowledged and everybody knows and everybody talks about how in the 1940s the whole world was destroyed, and that made the United States very powerful because it was not hurt by World War II the way everybody else was. But I honestly think, having looked into this a lot, I'm like writing a book on this, read a ton of books about the 1920s, 1930s. I think the United States was in a better position in the 1920s than it was at the end of World War II, because a lot of the world was still all together, and the United States basically owned it. The great powers, the European empires, had gone into a ton of debt during World War One, and they owed all that money to the United States. So the world was intact, and the U.S. owned it. We like to claim that it was an isolationist period for the United States because we don't want to face up to the fact that it was the United States that owned the world in the 1920s and the 1930s, and it was the United States that mismanaged the world badly enough that we ended up in the situation of World War II. It's crazy. If you look into the 1920s, both Germany and Japan, like gonzo crazy fascist states by the late 1930s, were trying to do things that looked like liberal democracies in the 1920s exclusively to impress the United States. And the United States just failed to keep it all together. And so we talk about, oh, we were isolationist. Our Federal Reserve wasn't, determining everything that was happening in the economy. Every country in Europe wasn't completely dependent on U.S. funding and Wall Street to do anything. So we like to pretend we were isolationist. So none of that was our fault. This is all part of research for my book, American Empire, The Next 100 Years, that will hopefully come out this decade at some point.